Hello, hello. Happy Sunday and welcome back to the UpSet podcast. Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, happy holidays, all of it. We are so happy to be with you on this special day. And when I say we, I'm talking about the merriest crew in all the land. It's Merry Christmas, right?
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Merriest crew.
Hey, I tried. Trying to keep it festive here. How's everybody doing? Merry Christmas.
Doing great.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Is that red plaid shirt that you have on one of those kind of Christmas things that you wear, opening gifts?
No.
It looks like the kind of thing that everybody in the family will be wearing.
Those are normally pajamas, right?
Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop
yeah,
calling
those
me.
all
kind-
on
yeah.
Facebook.
And then taking pictures and setting everywhere. It's
Mhm.
bad humbug.
I'm with you, Josh. I like those family pics. It's nice.
Me too.
Tally
Yeah,
the print.
They make those family pictures. They make really good dartboards. I like them.
I know who's not getting a Christmas card. Okay. The week of Christmas or leading up to Christmas is always kind of a hectic and busy one. What's kind of been up in your timelines or even in your lives this week?
Mhm.
I don't think I had.
You know,
time
I heard a distressing report from the BBC, and not as a downer, but it just bothers me when a society decides that they're just not going to educate their women.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Taliban ruled
Yeah, I
that
heard that,
all
yeah.
education stops
Oh,
Wow.
my
for
goodness.
women, and these now some were near graduation from college,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
it just come to a screeching halt.
And they said they weren't going to do that. Remember, they said,
Yeah,
"Oh, we're not going to
yeah,
take them out of the
yeah.
universities."
Right. Well, they changed, and it's unfortunate, because some of them work so hard, to get their degrees and hopefully move away and hopefully be able to help their families. And now that's come to us. So we need to pray. You need to pray for
Disturbing.
folk like
I
that.
can
It's
imagine.
very tough.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. Mercy.
Well, here in the city of Philadelphia, we have the dubious recognition once again of being in a city that surpasses 500 people killed. As of Tuesday, it was
Wow.
500, and now we have creeped above that. If there's any optimistic thing about it, is that it appears that we might not surpass the 562 from last year, which means that we can at least hope that we're going back in the other direction.
Some progress.
But still, 500 souls lost eternally,
In 1 year.
and so many of them young people.
All ages, yes. a lot
And
of
then
them.
the thing that I say with real sadness and almost shame, most of them looking like me or Charles or Pat or GP, being
Was most
killed
of it
by people.
gun violence? Was it by
Most
mostly
of it,
gun violence?
it is extraordinarily gun violence, or
90%.
well over 80%.
Stray
I think it's like
bullets too,
86%.
right? A lot of
Stray bullets.
Mhm.
But the thing that's most frightening nowadays is that, remember when somebody would shoot you, they say he was shot once, shot twice. Now people are being shot at dozens of times, and
Right.
it's a sense of overkill.
Yeah.
That speaks to
Literally.
more than simply, it's more than simply violence. It is a rage and a destruction of humanity and personality, sometimes with the singular intent to make sure that the family cannot have a decent burial because you cannot view the body because of the
Wow.
damage. And there's something ugly about it that needs to be really investigated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ooh,
It's the
tragic.
just the.
I didn't
bias.
mean to bring down everybody's
I know,
holiday.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Well,
It-
it's a reality.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
why we have to be merry even the more,
Yeah.
man. Here.
Yeah, we need
Well,
to
I
bring
can
some
tell you,
cheer.
for me on last Sabbath, we wanted to take gifts to the homeless. So my church, we had 132 gifts. We took blankets and gloves and scarves and
Very nice.
all kind of stuff like that to the homeless down. So I'm new here. I said, where do we go? I don't know where to go. They said, well, let's go into Philly. And then we found out not just Philly, but you go into Kensington. Man, we went down there on Kensington. I have never seen homelessness like that in my
Tent
life.
City.
Yeah, well, they tent cities without the tents, but they were, and they were in hundreds, right? And so we had opened our community service van, and before we could even start getting their things out, they were on us like flies on a burger at a cookout, and just so many in need. And it just, I mean, we were just saying, no, our ministry is here. We've got to come down here because we do a lot in Willow Grove, but it's, taking care of them. It's like, in the city, you might have a few who need, but I mean, there was a
in abundance,
right? I mean, people, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, we feed, and then we also we take some things to a community. We do a ministry called Taking Jesus to the Streets. And so, but we've been providing them food, but with them, it's maybe food that they don't like. Or something that they don't have, but that we bring something to them. But these people have nothing, and so it was just such an eye opener, a shock. And so that's where if you've got a church, go down to Philly if you're in this area, because it is such a need.
Before you go, I mean, that area in Philadelphia and Kensington is so markedly. I don't want to say bad or destructive, but you figure a negative word.
Yeah.
It is so bad that in Mexico, they sent a film crew up to film Kensington, that area under the tracks where you were, Marlena, in that area.
Yes.
They send a film from Mexico to film the folks there to show their kids in Mexico and said, don't use drugs or you might become like this.
From Mexico? Wow.
Mexico sent, they filmed it. As a matter of fact, our city was trying to sue Mexico for making us look bad. And we said, look, we've done that all by ourselves.
Really?
But, it's
in a days. I mean,
it is a pure hellscape there.
Wow.
It looks like, and I'm not being facetious or nor exaggerating, but I can take you to places. It looks like the Night of the Living Dead. It looks like zombies. It's hard to believe that human beings can descend to that level.
It's almost like, Tally, to be on the streets, when you're living on the streets and you're trying to survive, something has to happen to the mind. And to go to those drugs and things, I'm thinking, it had to be a, bad situation to try and comfort yourself. But I mean, rape is very common, among women who are homeless, and it's just so much that goes on. But guess what I saw? I saw a lot of community. We saw people sitting together in circles, like they put a pot and put wood in the pot to stay warm, and they just all gathered around, and it was almost like a whole bunch of families out there. And I was like, man, look at this, how they're coming together even to survive. And it lets us when God says man should not live alone, that community is just so strong. But it's a real sadness. You're right. And I was thinking about bringing our teenagers down here. I said, our teenagers in the church need to see because how they think, oh, it's cool to smoke weed, nothing's gonna happen to us, but they don't understand how just that little bit of desire for that can lead to something else. And look at what the devil would do to you,
Right. And as much as that it can be a downer on Christmas Day, because I know people are, by this time of the day on Christmas, you've opened your gifts and you've eaten and you may be watching some football or whatever. And, who wants to hear all these, downer stories? But what it does for us is, in my opinion, it awakens us to the reality of poverty right in our backyard. And maybe we ought to think about, between Christmas and New Year's, ways in which we could continue to support individuals that are like this. Churches and individuals sometimes do a one and done. And go, I went down, passed out sandwiches, in that way. The other 364 days, you're on your own, kind of thing. So it's just something to think about. Even if it's just 2 or 3 in your community, think of some kind of way to visit those areas or get involved in community action to see if we could be a help, ongoing, because that could
Oh,
happen to
yeah.
any of us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, it's so amazing you said that, because my people out there was like, Pastor, we need to come here every month. So you are absolutely right. It was just a real eye awakening. I mean, it was to another level. And then I think about Los Angeles when their new mayor came in, and she was calling it a state of emergency for their homelessness. I was like, if they are worse than we are, oh my goodness. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, close. And it's good too to partner with organizations, because a lot of the times, having people on AC Today, they've shared that their impact has been greater because they were able to partner with organizations in the community to have even more of an impact. And sometimes the churches can get overwhelmed by their meager resources, but when they partner with some of the other organizations, they're able to do so much more on a more consistent basis. So
one of my favorite proverbs says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
I like that.
That's
like
very
that.
nice.
That's well said, GP.
Yes.
African proverb.
Love it. Love it.
Hey,
All right, guys. That just came naturally, right?
I was waiting for the follow-up.
All right, guys. So we're excited about tonight's show because this is our last show of 2022. Can you guys believe it?
Wow.
We made it.
This is the last show. Oh
Where
my
has
goodness.
the year gone? Where has it gone? And guys, we have been on every Sunday this year. That's 52, right?
It's 52.
It's 52 weeks.
52.
And so we thought.
Is it next Sunday, the last Sunday?
Wait.
That's the new year.
New Year? Yeah, because 1 week
That's
after
January
Christmas,
1.
Yeah.
Oh, golly day. Okay.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It happens like that.
Wow.
Charlie, it's been like that since the beginning of time.
Yeah, that's how I keep up with it.
I don't like you anymore, Marty. That's so cold.
I was so bad about that just now. When she said since the, and I was like, since when?
I just thought there was one more Sunday.
I know. That's how it always feels. Isn't it just one more? But we're talking about the fact that many have opened gifts today. And, as a team, we've been thinking about how much this podcast has been a gift to us. So we wanted to take this time to reflect on some of our most memorable episodes. And of course, having recorded 52 in 1 year, there's so many that we could have selected. And so it was a big task for us to just narrow it down to one. But we managed to do it. So we're going to, take the time to reflect on each person's memorable episode, play a little clip from it, and then kind of have a little discussion about that, and the person can share why it impacted them. So in order to choose the author, we have our nice little Talia, a little Santa hat.
Oh, isn't that cute?
Gotta get his.
And we're just gonna
Oh, no.
and we're just gonna pull out the first name, and that will be the first one who will share. Oh, this isn't right. It's not big, I promise. It's me.
Oh, it's you. Oh. You sure there aren't like 25 slips of paper in there with you?
She'll pull out the other hat now after.
No. I know, because I typically try to go last. But okay, but listen, we're gonna follow the system. Okay, so we're gonna my clips are actually in two parts, part A and part B, from the same episode, which was Pimping the Pulpit. Remember that one, right?
That was your favorite show.
All right, so I'm gonna play the first one and then we'll go.
Yo. Hey, why y'all laughing? You know what? I'm done.
I think that's hilarious.
we got armor bearers, right? We have pastors who will not travel without their children, without their spouses.
Mm-hmm.
Some people want to travel with their armor bearers. Can I say something else, which is absolutely true? Sometimes we have preachers who want to travel with their organists.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we want to travel with that, right? So So do you think that that's going too far to travel with your entourage?
No.
I'll say this. I'm not going to say anything about anybody who has preferences about their bookings, but you cannot make demands unless you're in demand. That's all I'll say.
You know what?
That man can turn a phrase, can he? That boy can turn a phrase.
You gotta earn that right.
I want everybody right now to put that in the chat. Say it one more time, GP. I want everybody to put that in the chat. Go ahead. Say it one more time.
I'll say it one more time. So you cannot make demands unless you're in demand.
That's pretty good. I guess we can close this down right now.
Yeah.
But there's a lot.
What I discovered is that, and I hate to say it this way,
Go ahead, man.
but for most of us, most of our Adventist churches are stingy. And a lot of it has to do with our sense of law. You know, for example, the great fear is, recently Creflo Dollar advanced the notion that tithing is not necessarily a New Testament principle. And he's absolutely right. He is absolutely right. It is not articulated in the New Testament as a principle, because what's enunciated in the New Testament is the principle of hilarious generosity.
That's right.
You know, pressed down, running over.
That's right.
You know, in the New Testament, 10% becomes the floor, not the ceiling. But in Adventism, because we're so used to measuring things, you know, what's the limit? What can I get away with? That we have this thing of saying, how little can I give? And so when it comes to churches, I've seen it again and again. It's almost like we're afraid to be generous with people. And I don't understand that.
All right. So those are a couple of and I see Marlena, you weren't there, so this gives you a chance to kind of win. But we were talking about, if you guys
need to shut up sometimes.
You're so passionate though, Tally. We were talking about, you know, pastors receiving honorariums and fees and all of that when they go to speak. And for me, it was educational because I felt like you all really opened up a perspective that I just didn't have in terms of the preparation that goes into it, the travel, what it means. And I appreciated that because I think that's what the podcast is about, helping people understand where others are coming from so that you can educate yourself. And so I left there with a different perspective about honorariums and fees. And of course, you know, we always tease the GP about his phrases. And I thought that was
The
one
dude
of
is bad. The dude
like, you can't make demands if you're not in demand. And even you, Tally, bringing out the point that we tend to lean towards stinginess, and somehow we think that makes us, you know, special or humble or more holy, and that's really not the case.
I like the statement, the floor.
Yeah.
Right.
Which and I know that I'm not sure what the chat looked like, but when he said that it wasn't a New Testament principle, it threw people, but he's right.
But it was always understood, though. It was
right. I mean, I'm not saying that
it's not
what
like
happened
it was done away with. It's just understood that you continue.
Understood. I just think that the upsetters say some things that we really want to say that we don't. That we say some things that we really don't want to put out there because we're afraid. But it's true that it's not. But I love the. Let's even skip from that because we could open up a whole can of beans on that. But it's the floor, the giving. We want to give as less as we can, and that's the part that got me when listening to it.
Well, and then too, the whole thing about the giving to the preachers, you know, the honor. I mean, that is such a sore thought even to the world. I mean, people feel like, you know, preachers just sit around and get rich. So, you know, you come and preach, you give them a whole bunch of money, and then Adventism, like, we're not going to do that. You know, we'll cover your gas, you know. But sometimes, I mean, some churches don't offer anything, you know. And
I'd like to push us to go to those who are listening to go back to that, because even though we just took a soundbite out, there was a lot that was discussed as far as how what happens when you travel, how you prepare, you know, when you get there, why they asked for what it was. I mean, it was a great episode to be able to sit back and say, okay, I know now. I just can't. I don't care who's listening. I just came from a church who did not. I traveled all the way to so-and-so, and they didn't give me a dime.
Wow.
Not a dime.
yet.
It's in the mail. It's in the mail.
Are they in this conference?
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait a
Oh, they're
minute.
going to send you something.
It wasn't a conference
I
church?
forgot.
Not
Not AEC, maybe.
listen, let me not yet. The
Wait a
point
minute.
I'm making with not yet is that you prepare for your musicians, you prepare for your so-and-so, you prepare for blah, 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 but you didn't prepare.
Wait a minute. This was not because I was saying if it was a conference church, they might say, well, he's a conference worker, therefore.
No,
Right.
That's still not an
Some
excuse.
do
I
that.
understand. No, it wasn't an AEC church.
That is sin.
Well,
But I've been told that,
That is
guys. I
sin.
was told that.
That's
That's
sin.
their
But let's-
job. You
let's
don't
keep
have
moving
to.
on because I didn't ask
That's-
Vice President Wimbish to go. So let's go ahead. And,
No, and that's the good thing too about the episodes. You guys recall in the chat, there were a lot of people listening who felt differently after hearing the discussion, and they were saying they were going to go back to their churches and even advocate for having a system and being more consistent about giving. So that's what we're about, making changes. All right, let's move to the next person.
That church sinned.
it's funny. I wanted
That's how
to
we're
stay
summing
on
up
it,
that
too.
story, right?
And he
That
felt
church
the
is going
sin,
somewhere
too.
high. Going somewhere very high.
All right, next up we have Charles or Chuck. So we're going to play his clip right now. Charles, tell us, we were talking about the case of Dr. Moore. Many of us within this last year at least have seen on social media the doctor who recorded herself. Can you share that with our audience, the experience of Dr. Moore, who had COVID, and she recorded a video of herself in the hospital.
Yeah, Dr. Susan Moore was hospitalized for COVID-19, and she recorded on her cell phone and posted it, I believe, on Facebook, sharing her experience in the hospital and how she was not receiving the correct type of treatment. As herself being a physician, she knew what really needed to be done in early treatment while she was there, and they wouldn't give her the treatment, and she felt that her her care overall was very biased, and that's why she felt the need to report this on social media. I think what was startling was that when she reported it as a physician. Here is a physician in a hospital, Black physician, who is not getting adequate care. Who would know better than another physician?
Mm-hmm.
But she did not get the adequate care, and subsequently they sent her home, even when she didn't want to go home. But they sent her home. Her condition got worse, and she ended up being readmitted in another hospital, which, as the journalists reported, and even members of her family reported, her care was more compassionate in the other hospital. So just in balance, we want to say that this is not happening everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But in her situation, I think what was startling was the fact that here is a physician who knows, unfortunately, she was a Black female physician. And it seems to me, now it may be reaching, but whoever was giving her care felt like it didn't matter if you were a physician. You could be a rocket scientist. The problem they had, whoever those caregivers were, which, by the way, according to the journalists, they haven't been able to comment on this situation. It didn't matter if she was a rocket scientist. What mattered was that she was a Black female, and they had a predisposition about her.
All right, I remember that one, Charles.
Charles, man.
Heavy.
I remember that.
Thing that got me with that, and Dr. and I was glad that Dr. Melissa Houston joined us. She gave us some insight on that. As a matter of fact, prior to my comments, she said that there was a term for that. I don't know if you remember. She said there's a term for that. It's called medical gaslighting.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
And so, she said that it goes back to their training and their sensitivity in school, and then even when they do their internships, all of that stuff. So I strongly recommend, if you missed that episode, to go back and see that, because I think that You know, there are disparities in healthcare for Black people.
Yeah, it didn't end. It didn't end when our show ended.
Right, exactly. Still goes on. And that's what I liked about it, because she was able to share real cases. There's real studies on this habit. So it's not, people think, oh, everybody's trying to make everything about race, how real is this?
There are actual statistics.
Yeah. It shows certain biases.
That prove that. I would hope that there's a change. Even prior, this was the case before COVID. COVID just amplified it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, statistics show there was a great number of African-American men and women who had to be cared for during the COVID pandemic. And so the hospitals are already overwhelmed, and hospitals do have racist healthcare workers. I mean, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they take the Hippocratic Oath doesn't mean they start growing wings, So yeah, I just thought it was important for us to bring that to everyone, and to also suggest that if you have a family member who is a Black female and has to go into hospital for something, you need to arrange to have someone there, a family member, a neighbor, a friend, an advocate. Yes, because sometimes the sickness may not allow the individual to ask questions, important questions. And I think that if you're in there with a relative or a friend and they're giving treatment and whatever, I mean, you need to ask questions. What is that? What's that in the IV tube? Why are you giving her that? Why is she getting this? That kind of thing. Now, that might be irritating to healthcare professionals, but if they are in fact professionals, they should be able to respect the idea that people want to know how they're being treated and if they're getting the best treatment. Yeah, so that really stuck with me.
Yeah, that was a great episode. Educational one at that too.
Yeah.
All right.
Well delivered, Chuck. Well delivered.
Yeah.
All right, we ready for the next one?
The next.
You spoke, and it's yours, Marlena.
All right.
So here we go.
Out, slowing down. And I just wanted to go back a little bit to our cultural and society, because for those who work, all work, especially corporate jobs, it's that fast pace, because the more you work, the more production, the more money. It's all about making that money, right? And so when you're working all week, you're coming home, you have to fix dinner, you have to take care of the children, help them do their homework, make sure everything is getting done, right? Then there is little sleep, right? Little sleep increases anxiety, increases mental illness, increases depression. You go back, you start that same cycle over and over and over again. And God forbid if you have the type of job where you don't have the weekends off, right? You work 6-7 days a week, right? And so we see that pile of rush. And then someone says, slow down. And you think, how do I slow down when my job requires me to work 10 hours a day, And so it is very challenging, even though we know some societies may be a little bit slower, but depending on your profession, depending on where you live, it can be really fast paced and difficult to get out of it. And we were talking about Adventist living, which really teaches sleeping 7 to 8 hours a day. Do you know our bodies are made to repair itself from injury. That's how good, God created us, right? That when you're in the bed by 10 and you got to get into one of those sleep cycles, right? Before your body starts to really repair itself. But you're not going to bed till 12, 1 or 2. You got to get up at 6 and 7. There's no body repair. The mind also has repair hours, and so there's no repair. And we wonder why our homes are in a wreck, why we're so angry, why we're so upset, because we're not sleeping.
Look upset, Marlena.
We're not sleeping. We're not resting. It's really
you make
rough.
an excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent
And
point.
so, even though us talking, tonight, people's like, I hear that doggone tally.
It's so funny watching it. Yeah.
But this show, it just really stuck out with me, because Chuck, I'm so glad you brought it to us. Living so fast paced, and we are to really slow down and relax, because especially as Black women, I'm 50-ish now, right? And they talk about how we're most susceptible to heart attacks and things like that because of the stress, all this working and stuff we do, and we know that God wants us to take care of our bodies, right? And so I just really like that show and wanted to remind everyone, because it didn't change for me at one bit once I watched that show. Like, it change.
That's why you gotta watch.
What I remember from that show, Tally said, well, if I go to the emergency room, I don't need the doctors to slow down. I need them to speed up. Don't come to me talking about, well, I'm stressed today.
Well, I think it's culture. It's culture. We recognize that. I'm starting a regimen of slow down, and I know it doesn't happen overnight. So I have to remind myself. There are times when I'm rushing out the house, and maybe I'm late for an appointment, or I'm trying to get. I have to literally, I'll come to the first stoplight, and I have to say, slow down. Slow down, because you feel it like you said in the clip, Marlena, it affects your whole metabolism.
Yeah. Or either that, Chuck, or the pedestrian underneath your car wheels will say,
slow down. Right?
But truthfully speaking, I mean, when you think about the fact that before anything else happened in the life of humankind, God gave them a gift to remind them that the objective to life is not trying to figure out how to speed it up. It is to make sure that you slow down. Before,
balance, right?
The Sabbath is given on the first day. The man hadn't done anything. He wasn't tired. And so God said the first lesson for you to learn is how to let go and slow down.
Right.
And
I try to remember that on Sabbath at the camp meeting.
We have been defying exactly. We have been defying that ever since. I mean, in our attempt to worship and praise God,
yes,
we are actually defying what God asks us to do.
Yeah.
And daily, guys, I've been studying a lot on sleep. If we look up sleep and the need of it, it is major just for our healing, our mentation, and just being able to survive day by day. And when you see what sleep deprivation does, and again, that's why people are so angry and upset, and irritable, because they haven't had enough sleep. So
that's true.
And you know what? We've taught ourselves, unfortunately, that it's bad to do nothing. It is actually good to do nothing.
Yeah.
We don't allow ourselves to do nothing.
And to your teenage children, imbalance, right?
Yeah. But there are times when you get up, you might even have, quote unquote, a day off, but you're in such that drive-through mindset that you get up and you say, I got to be doing something. I have a day off, but I don't have an itinerary. I gotta come up with something. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Do nothing.
Yeah.
Chuck,
and it's okay.
I was on the beach, legs just browning.
Okay.
No, this is a problem. I took out my phone and got into my notes section and started planning for when I got back.
Have mercy.
That's bad.
It is absolute foolishness.
I know the problem. You had your church shoes on. That's why. Next time, just leave them.
I was looking for that. I was looking for that clip. The surprise that I really wanted to do was all the times that Tally and Marlena got into a tiff through the whole thing. I was trying to find every clip for that to put it in there, because that is hilarious to watch both of them. But I left my shoes at home.
Oh, gosh.
But we really need to learn how to slow down. I thought about this. My great grandmother used to tell my grandmother, her name was, they called her Dar, like Dar. But he said, Dar, leave a little something for tomorrow. And my mother said that to me, and I was trying to say, what? She was in parts where she was basically saying, you can't do everything today.
Right.
Whatever you do, move it for the next day or leave it for the next day. And that's how them old people live so long.
Yeah.
because they didn't have the type of stress that we have today.
That we put on ourselves.
We put on
mostly.
ourselves.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's a show everyone should go back and watch, especially during this time of the year. As you're planning for new habits for the new year. The Culture of Fast, I think, was the name of that show. So go back and check that one out. Thanks, Marlena, for that one. That was a good one. All right, let's see who we have next. Let's shake it up a little bit. We're halfway through.
All
Shake
right.
it up. I mean, how many
Who
more?
might it be?
Oh, I hope I didn't shake it out of the.
Any more left?
Oh, okay, next up, we have Tally.
All right.
Oh boy.
All right.
I
Let's
tell you,
see
I
the
can never
crowd.
win the lotto. I can't win the lotto for nothing.
Here we go. Kind of goes along with how are they vetted, because the nominating committee is the committee that vets those who are
That's
nominated.
correct.
Let me ask a question about that. I'm young and ambitious. Suppose I want to be president. How do I run for president? Does anybody run for president?
Well, again, that's process, but I do have an answer.
It'll be a no.
Hey, they will be still running.
I mean, can I come to the nominating committee and say, put me, I want to be considered for president? And there
No.
was silence for the.
I'm going to actually answer, but I want to give it to the vice president for administration first, because
How do people run for office?
Well, in our system, you don't run.
Yeah, you do.
You might
They
be
just
running.
don't call it running. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't call it running.
Okay.
To be considered the president, first of all, you have to be an ordained minister.
Okay.
So
Check one box.
okay, you can check that. But a layperson couldn't check it.
Okay.
Okay, so that would rule out over half the delegates right there.
Okay.
And what's being proposed in the present bylaws, it says you have to be a ordained minister, and you have to
of experience.
of experience. Yep, of experience.
Can that be good or bad? 'Cause
Well, see, the bylaws committee raised that question, and see, we look at the bylaws, and the question was, and that's why I love this bylaws committee, because they don't just rubber stamp things. They look at it grammatically. It doesn't make sense to the average person. And so that question was raised on that point alone, of experience. And they said, what do you mean of experience? What is that? And they thought that we should put some context to that. And the union secretary who meets with us, providing governance oversight, making sure we're doing everything in order. She spoke to that.
Fix your face, Tally. Fix your face.
Oh, we're off. Oh, I didn't know we were back.
And why was this memorable to you, Tally?
Well,
Hold on, let's get ready for this. Go ahead.
I have long, speaking truth to power is, the idea of, and incidentally, that bylaws about that of experience thing had not been voted yet.
Right.
But I had long wanted to ask for a greater level of transparency as to how people become leaders in our denomination. And having those two gentlemen here, I thought it would be a good time to get them to say directly and with transparency, this is how a person becomes president. They did not answer the question. What they talked about some things, but they did not answer the question. And it's because we prefer the mystery of the election rather than a transparent, straightforward process. I don't know why that is in Adventism. Our AME brothers are much more transparent in the way they do it. Our Baptist brethren are much more transparent. The closest I get to the way we do it is the Catholic system, where somebody just waits for some white smoke to come out of it. And so, I wanted to know how do you do it? I mean, everybody knows that people are running. Everybody knows it, but nobody wants to acknowledge it, and I don't. Which is why I say, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Well,
because
Charlie,
the
can you share with us just for education, how do some of the other denominations carry out this process?
in the AME church, if a person wants to be bishop, which is tantamount to being a president, he makes it known. He goes around the churches. He assembles a group of individuals. They have a platform. It can become political, but our process is political. It's just underground.
Yeah.
And and that's one way. In the Baptist church, they come together. They meet. They caucus, and so forth. It's just that it is a lot more outwardized. People know that you are seeking this office. In our church, the idea is that nobody is seeking the office, and then when they win, they say, "I am so surprised. I'm shocked." Let me read a speech that I prepared. I mean, everybody knows that people are right.
Yeah.
Nobody's surprised. Nobody was surprised at the selection and I'm not opposed to it. I think Marcellus Robinson is a decent human being, and I respect him, and I appreciate it, what he's given to his church. But the idea that he was not running is an insult to my intelligence. And I love the guy.
Maybe it's the word running. Maybe
he was running, dadgummit, running is what I said. And I'm not backing off of that. There's nothing wrong when the apostles,
maybe it's a.
So you're lobbying you're actually lobbying for a
yeah.
position.
When the apostles came with their mama and said, "Hey, look, now when you get in the conference office, we'd like to be on your right hand and your left." Jesus didn't say, "Y'all shouldn't be trying to run for no office." No, he didn't say all of that. He said, "Look, can you drink of this cup and be baptized with the baptism?" He never told.
I'm just imagining Jesus saying y'all.
That's the new chosen. Listen, Tally, I watched through it some more, and no, it wasn't answered, but it taught me a lot. Even in that, I wasn't in this session with you guys. I think I was
running.
He was visiting one of those churches, right?
Caucusing.
Picketing.
Be on this caucusing. It's amazing what we go through, and I do believe that we need to step up and be out front, and say, listen, these are some issues that I would like to see changed. These are some ways that I would like to see our conference move in. I think it's archaic. The way we do it right now is archaic. It can add more politics, but in my personal opinion, it's archaic, and it leaves room for drawing straws that's not really drawn.
Politics is a human necessity.
Yeah.
Whenever people have to make decisions and there is a plurality of individuals with thoughts, you have to have a system that will allow for those thoughts to kind of rub against each other and to have one emerge. It is a human necessity. The evil is when people do not acknowledge that necessity. And I sense that we would sharpen one another, that we would improve one another by saying openly, I would like to be considered for this position. And the failure to do that creates, it's like dark money in politics. If nobody knows who's doing it, then things happen behind the scene. And that happens in every election, in every conference, every time.
I'm sorry, Melina.
Well, okay, I'll be quick, but I'd like to say I know there's an element of spiritualism that they like to see, like, this is a really an appointment from God. That's the main plan. But I do think that there has to be anointing and experience. And so if there was a way that someone could say or recommend, I mean, the recommendations that we do are so minimal, because sometimes they're like good, godly, very knowledgeable people who may not say a lot, pretty humble, you know, that could be an excellent choice. They may have been in the military, had experience, you know, somewhere else, and could really do an awesome job. So an element of, you know, allowing people to say, hey, I would like to do that, and then take, you know, your nominees and pray over them and see who would be the best choice. I think that would be a good option, because otherwise it seems like the selections might not be as large as they should be, the nominees, you know, and then they narrow it down. Half the time people don't know who they are. You gotta, you know, explain to them, you know, who this person is. And so it seems like maybe the whole process has to change some, because you're making a decision in a short amount of time. And I don't know.
Let me
I think
offer
on
this.
the,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Charles.
let me just throw this in. There is also a little caveat on the constituents side, and that is the lack of education on this process. The reason I say that is because even at the constituency session, I was asked by young adult that had never seen this constituency session ever take place, and she had no clue as to what was going on. And so I had to explain to her, you know, what was going on, why it was happening, what the process was. That said to me that there are a lot of people who don't buy into the whole system because they don't understand it.
Chuck,
They don't know.
Chuck, good observation. Before Tally jumps in, let me give kudos to the podcast. AEC today. This is the most that I have seen in 20 years. People who have been, and it's not everybody, but that has got connected to say, oh, that's the way that it goes. To see the amount of young pastors run to the mic to start discussing the bylaws and to stay while everybody left, show me that, okay, they're now saying, okay, I understand how this goes. So without these courses, or with whatever we had done, it had never been put out front before, not the way that we have done it. And so I give kudos to Marlena for putting it out and for planning the way she planned. I'm not giving Natasha
nothing to do with me.
She can get
Nothing to do with me.
In closing this section, I want to articulate a couple of gospel principles. I try to think this way. You know, what is the principle of the gospel? How does Christ do things? And I had discovered by reading the Gospels that the religion of the Pharisees was to figure out how to exclude people, how to limit involvement, but that the religion of Christ was to try to figure out how to include people, how to become as inclusive. Now, there was something that two gentlemen, my two colleagues, said right at the bat that should cause people to think, and that is that in order to be the president of this conference, you have to be an ordained minister. And then that goes further, and they say, and they wanted to make it of a certain number of years of experience. Now, you know, the invention of the clergy is not New Testament. The idea of a separation of clergy and laity, that is not a New Testament concept.
It's Catholicism.
It is. But so what you're hearing initially is, now think about it. This is a denomination that did not wish to ordain women, thereby eliminating the majority of its members from the ability to be in leadership. And now you say, add to that the fact that if you are not an ordained person, in other words, if you haven't gone through school and been ordained, gone through the system, you are also eliminated. You create an oligarchy, you know, a small group of people who will be in leadership and everybody else gets excluded. That's something the church needs to be aware of, that you are excluding the vast majority of people from ever being in a position of making the decisions that govern their lives. That's all I want to say.
Well, I do want to say they've changed the bylaws, so now us women can be voted
in Allegheny East, East, and in a conference in California.
Okay.
In the two unions.
Yeah, the two unions there. So if you go anywhere beyond this conference, Marlena, welcome.
That's it.
As Dave Chappelle said, come get these N-word lessons.
I probably couldn't even be on a show like this and somebody
exactly.
Stay in physical, stay in the therapy. Stay with therapy.
Keep that license. That's right.
That's right. Keep the license.
All right, we ready to move on to our next two? We have two more.
Right.
Who could it be?
Tasha,
I wonder who it
my
is.
job. I got a job, Tasha.
I want you guys to enjoy the rest of your Christmas. Okay. GP, you're up next. Let's see what
Are you with us?
good out. GP. Here we go.
Compared to Barely Adventist.
It's very similar, but Barely Adventist tends to only focus on, satire stories where we'll get into the politics of things. We'll get into the social norms. One thing we recognize, and this is just funny to me, but what coming up, I always cheered for the black folk. So when I was growing up in Barbados, had a black and white TV when I was a kid, and we didn't have cable, but you would see the NBA finals back in the day. It was the Celtics and it was the Lakers. It was the Celtics.
I beg your pardon? What you said?
It was the Bucks. So the Celtics and the Sixers. I mean, so
thank you.
Listen, I ended up being a Laker fan way back because I identified with my people, and you see a lot of black folk on the Celtics. So there's that common thread where Serena Williams is playing. We all in it.
Right.
If even Tiger Woods, man, we try to support him as long as we could. But
he said as long as we could.
But no, it's just a place, man.
O.J. Simpson,
bro.
Oh no.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that show.
Yeah, that was a fun episode, and quite honestly, I couldn't pick my favorite episode because I love all of them. I think they're great, but I picked that particular episode because you notice I was literally standing holding my daughter, and I'll tell you, I love this podcast, but I love my daughter even more. Right?
Oh yes, as you should.
On that particular day, she was with my mother, but she said da 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 da. And she had been crying all day, and she wanted to be in the arms of her father, and so she was crying pretty much almost the whole episode. So sometimes I would put her down, I would turn off my camera, I would be on mute most of the time. And the next day we took her to the doctor, and we found out that she had an ear infection. And I had no idea she was in that sort of pain. But knowing that she wanted to be in my arms, and it just reminds me of my priorities, right? So I'm dedicated to this podcast, but at the end of the day, I'm dedicated to my family and
That's
my
right.
ministry. And so it was just a reminder for me to prioritize what really matters most. And it was a reminder to me also, sometimes it's okay to not be available, if you can't make it, so in that screen you saw a struggling father, trying to do work and also to attend to his family. And so it was terrible. My camera was off like almost 40% of the episode, but I was there listening and engaged in the conversation. But so I picked that one because that was really memorable for me because
But
GP,
GP,
stranger to the podcast, but that day was interesting. So yeah.
But did you notice, GP, that you got not one complaint from any of us?
Not one. Not one.
Listen, we know
because she's part of the family.
Yeah.
But we also love to see how you take care of your daughter as a father. I mean, mothers you expected, but as a father being so attentive, and I think it's good for our viewers to see. And so it's it's like
she's cute.
She looks like her mama.
Yeah, well,
but at some point you'll get your priorities straight so you can move ahead in the work, man.
At some point, yeah. Because I will not progress in ministry if I keep prioritizing my family like that.
Make sure that's first.
Don't be surprised if she asks for a microphone.
Yeah. I think it is so unfair that we'll be saying extraordinarily profound things with depth and spirituality, and then and GP will say, oh, let me trump all of these cats, and he'll go grab his baby, and then we all look like just babbling.
Right.
You know, our stock just plummets. You know, we're coming down the mountain with tablets of stone from Sinai. GP goes gets a baby, and it's like, well, everything else is over.
You know, we've literally watched.
Or he'll say, if you can't make demands unless you're in demand.
There you go. I was like, how does his brain work like that? What?
We literally watched this baby grow, born, and grow. And you know, GP, it's every time I see that child, it makes it just gives me it makes me say to myself,
I want to have another one.
No. It makes me cherish those times more than anything else. I mean, it literally does. Every time I see that baby and you hold the baby, or the baby run up to you or whatever, it's not an excusable type thing. It's they come first. Mm-hmm. Trust me now, as a pastor who has grown children, there's some things I regret because of ministry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let me share. I mean, we all, and in our church, we tend to fear desire. When we think desire, we think rampant sexuality. But the purest form of life is the life of desire. And what your daughter feels from you is the purest desire that will ever be known, the desire of a child for her parent. And to resonate with that desire puts you right next to the place where God lives, because God doesn't need us. He desires us.
Right.
You don't need your child. You desire her. And so cherish that, man.
Okay. So I'm going to take over the producer's part. Sorry. I'm going to do this. What you just said. Okay, Pat, don't do that. Don't do that. What you just said brings on the next clip.
Okay. Yes. That's a nice intro.
Let's go.
By chance.
Yeah.
Here we go. Ask, and you know, you may have heard me ask this before, but what's something, we have a whole audience listening today, Joe. What are some things you want people to understand about autistic people? Maybe the you know, all of the stereotypes that we put on people with autism. What do you want? What's the truth? What do you want us to know? What do you want to dispel for people right now?
Well, the truth with autism is that when it comes to people with autism, we are there's some high functioning, and there's some that you can look at and say, well, yeah, you're definitely it. There's a lot of people with different abilities. So you got Steven Spielberg. No, he's not autistic. I thought he was autistic. He's not. He has dyslexia. And yes, he was made fun of, but he started pop culture, and he got made fun of. And now I'm like, well, now that you made fun of him, he's swimming in money, and you're still broke. The guy who wrote I, Robot, autistic. Some people say Abraham Lincoln was a little quirky. Or who's the guy that drew the airplane before there was an airplane? With Leonardo da Vinci. Said he did weird hand movements, and yet he started flying. It wasn't for him, nobody no airplane. I wouldn't get to Florida. It wasn't for him. So that's we're very high skilled in a lot of stuff, and yes, it does get to the point where it can become a little obsessive, and sometimes it's nice to come off topic, and that does. I know some people say, well, my son has trouble making friends. I'm like, that could be a problem because he's so obsessive over the same subject over and over. He can't hop off of it, and that's what deteriorates friendship. So like the Holy Bible says in Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time and a place for everything. Sometimes it's good to know your skills and your subject, but it also is nice to come off of it sometimes.
You're into music. A friend of mine who was a musician told me that music is math that you can hear. Are you also oriented toward math?
Yeah, only when it comes to money and my finances. That's the only math.
All right, John.
You've inherited a lot from your father.
That was great.
That was my second choice, Pat. Man, watching you, it brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah,
watching
that was a good one.
Watching you overshadow your son Man, that was magic.
So when you said that about GP, you said the same thing right after. We just didn't have the time to play it, and you know, you manly cried. You know, you had that man. And when that happened, it was like, okay, Pat, don't let it. Don't. I listened to the whole thing through again. I mean, the whole thing. When Joe got on, and you know, you made a statement about how God, just same thing you said to GP. You know, that show allowed Joe to open up. Never been in a situation like this before,
and he articulated well.
Yeah,
very
well.
I didn't think he could, but it was Tally that was pushing him. If you listen to it, go back and listen to it. Tally kept asking questions over and over and over and over again. That Duke in the what said, keep going because you handling Tally well. I said, okay. Joe has come to me recently and said he wants to go to WAU to do religion and theology.
Oh, nice.
And
nice.
Go ahead and push him to that. So I said to him, so you want to be a preacher? He's like, you mean like you? I said, yeah. He's like, not
like you. No. Maybe like my uncle, but not like you.
He wants to teach it. He wants to teach it.
That's great.
There's one section in there that his superpower is history. He wants to do like biblical history.
Wow,
man!
And I remember asking him in that episode about how he felt about you or something to that effect, and he was sharing, I think, how you used to help him, like even with getting dressed, like your belt's too tight, Joe, or you know, loosen up, like some of those things that you may have considered insignificant
right
at the time, and he, as a adult male, is remembering how you kind of helped him, you know, with even those small things about just how he carried himself as a young man. I thought it was so sweet. I love Joe.
Took a lot of work. And then the next question somebody asked him was, can he beat me in basketball? I thought he was going to be nice about it. He just turned around and was like, this guy is old.
You know, the other thing that I just noticed that I didn't notice before is it looks like he and GP were separated at birth. Honestly, I mean, look, I took a screenshot of it. I don't know if I can show it.
Bald and bearded.
And the glasses.
Well, Tally. Before the year 2023, I'll take a mouth swab.
Is Pat my daddy? Podcast rushing to your dad.
In the case of GP, Pat, you are not the father.
No, but that show helped a lot of people, though. If you guys recall, there were a lot of people who had autistic children, and it was really helpful for them to hear some of the challenges, some of the strategies, even Pat, that you shared. And I remember people being very grateful for even having Joe on there to kind of have people hear from his perspective what it's like. So
excellent.
The one I can remember the most is that we were on a prayer line or something, and somebody had come on, and their child had just got diagnosed autism, and how distraught they were. And I think the show helped them when we saw that, you know, Joe graduated with a certificate. Joe graduated high school. He has his driver's license. And up to this date right now, he's a manager at GNC.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
Which is pushing him, and locking, closing doors, math, as you said before, accounting, you know, all of that they have left up to him. So autism is not the end of the line. It's the beginning of some good things.
It's not an intellectual statement. It is a processing statement. How people orient and process, and the intellect can be off the charts. I mean, I was listening to your son, how he perceived things and expressed himself, and I thought to myself, you know, we're not talking about a person's ability to learn nor their ability to express. We're just talking about the way people process and orient. And so,
right. And he gave some excellent examples.
He really did. Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's my son.
But you know, the real thing about that segment was not about your son. It was seeing you
Yeah.
in a completely different light, man.
Yeah,
Completely
that
different.
was.
I mean,
You had a
were-
sparkle on your face.
You
Yeah.
did,
You know.
and a sense of just the way you weren't hovering over him per se, but you were there in the background, and it was clearly a statement that says, if the need arises, I'm here for you in ways that people cannot.
That's right. It was a position of support.
Right.
Literally.
What God does.
Okay,
Yes,
let's go ahead. Latasha, go ahead and let's run it out now.
No, that was great. I mean, guys, we actually narrowed it down to 6 of our most memorable episodes for season 2. And I have to say, we covered a wide gamut of different topics, from educational, emotional, conference, administrative type stuff. And I think it just summarized.
I'm still employed.
Some of us.
Yeah, that's one of our most frequently asked questions. You guys haven't been fired yet? Yeah, we are still gainfully employed for now.
Some of us.
Some people left on their own.
Yeah.
Right.
Does Tally still have an AEC email? Or that's
still got the email.
Yeah.
I mean, but let me tell you, when I left, that nobody was all of them was just standing at the doctor bay, bidding me fond farewell, greasing the skids, asking can they help me in the moving van. No,
not us. But it's been a great season, guys. I want to.
You are to be commended, Tasha, as the communications director of this conference, and calling this together.
And the vision, the vision.
Well, I want to thank you guys. Talking about the gift of the upset, you guys have been a special group. I mean, I know I try to come up with all these adjectives, but I really can't find the appropriate one to describe how I feel about you guys and just your dedication to this podcast. And I wish I was wealthy so that I could somehow pay you back.
We wish you were too.
We wish you were. You can start with small steps.
There you go.
Increments, right?
And just put it on AEC's tab.
And now that as we're closing this, we can tell the people the real name of this program, this episode. It's called The Many Hairstyles of Tosh.
Yes.
No, that was interesting to look back and see. A lot of us have changed, though. I mean, not changed. But we have different.
We're all looking different. That's true.
Yeah, different hairstyles. The level of the haircut. Well, for some of them,
the level of baldness.
It's got to be a reference to me, right?
The shine.
Yeah.
Sometimes Pat had glasses on. Sometimes he didn't.
We were variations on a theme. Tosh would be a completely different human being, different house, different
background.
I got it.
Yeah,
Here you go, Tally. Tasha Fierce.
Marlena had always. Sometimes she had that little one.
Had one curl there. Had a little Superman curl hanging down there.
Yeah, it's so funny to look back. So much can change over a year's time. I think that's what it shows us. But we are excited about season 3 coming up next year. We have a lot of very exciting things planned, and I shared a little bit with you all last week, but just to recap, we want to include some more shows, some more episodes from ideas that you guys have submitted. So it's not too late to share with us some of the topics you want us to cover. UpSet@AECSDA.com. Write us. Let us know what you want to talk about. And we feel like we've been doing this thing for a little while, so we can, turn it up a little bit. Maybe tackle some subjects that we may have been a little trepidatious about talking about before. And so share with us anything. Also, we're having our guys, as an Upset Digest, we want you guys to kind of share some letters with us. Maybe it's a situation that you're going through and you want the Upset to weigh in. Send us your letters also to upset@aecsda.com, and we'll read those and give you our honest opinion, God-fearing opinions.
God-fearing.
I got an opinion for you. We don't want that.
Yeah. And then in February is our 2nd birthday, guys. Like that will be exactly 2 years since we started February. And so we're going to have a little online birthday party, and we want to feature some of you. And so we
might add a brand new look.
Oh yes, we'll feature a brand new look for our birthday, and we're excited about that. And also, we want you to record videos talking about, hey, what does the UpSet mean to you? We meet a lot of you, and you tell us in person, but we want to be able to see your faces on the screen so others can see. And so you can send those videos to upset@aecsd.com. 90 seconds. I hope that will translate.
Yes.
So really,
Yeah,
will you at the birthday one? Will you have Dookie braids in? Like Janet Jackson? I mean,
Wow.
I know, right? Who says
Who
Is
even
there
knows
such a
what kind
thing?
of braids?
I'm trying to which
yeah,
kind.
That
I
sounds
would
like something from
never
North
have
Philly. I tell you.
Golly dang.
We'll see what the birthday is. Yes,
Madam Executive Producer, can we ask our audience to, I don't know, give us like a, feedback on their favorite episode?
Yeah.
that would be great.
yes,
That'd be
Like a
great.
people's
Yeah.
people's choice type.
Ah, yes, that's definitely what we want. We want you guys. You've heard some of ours. What were some of your favorite episodes? Also, email us UpSet, and we will feature that in a future episode. Because we're doing this for you guys. We enjoy it. We try to pick topics we think you all will enjoy, but maybe we're off. So let us know some of the ones that you really like, so we can do more of that same type going forward. Yes,
Madam Executive. Also, we're gonna have cups that you can put in a dishwasher.
Oh, please put yours down, please. Put yours down.
I put mine in the dishwasher. See?
Oh wow. Is that wow.
This is what happens when you don't follow
I still
directions.
got my tea, and that's for
Missing your S,
that's for
H,
Tasha
and I.
Fierce. That's for
That is
Tasha
S,
Fierce.
H, and I.
But no, he's right. During our birthday celebration, we hope to launch our UpSet merch, so you can purchase mugs, caps, shirts for the UpSet. And so we'll be sharing more information about that.
Dishwasher capable,
But
microwavable.
the ones you have will be able to be placed in the dishwasher, so don't worry about that happening to you. So as you can see, we have so much going on, so much planned. But we just thank you for being faithful listeners and viewers of the UpSet podcast. We appreciate you. We love you.
Yes.
We hope that you'll enjoy the rest of your Christmas or whenever you watch this. But I don't know. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone.
Merry
Yeah.
Christmas.
Happy
New
and
Year.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Wonderful time.
That's right.
Of the
So
year.
maybe we
let's
need
get
to
out before
start
Pat
a
really
UpSet
gets
fire,
tuned
okay?
up here.
Tally, what's in your cup? Tell the truth.
Whatever it is, whatever was in your cup was strong enough to burn the color off of it. So.
Oh no. This is great. All right, guys. We actually will be back next week. So we will see you. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of 2022. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Peace out,
guys.
everybody. Merry
Bye-bye.
Christmas.
Happy holidays.
And love to all.
Yes.